Hey, Richard Myers here. Hey, thanks again for joining me. In my videos, in my video series here on this YouTube channel, I have in quite a number of videos emphasized that we are the church, that it's not something we attend or go to or join, that it's something we are. And you could legitimately ask the question, why is that important? And there's a number of answers to that question, but one I'd like to give is that I was in a church service, a gathering, a few weeks ago, and the pastor that was speaking, the teacher that was teaching, basically had the subject, how do we stop sinning? And so it made me think of, I have the key to that. I know exactly how we stop sinning. And I can tell it to you, hopefully, in about 3 or 4 minutes here on this YouTube channel. How do you stop sinning? And here's the basic principle. We live according to who we think we are. In other words, our self-image, our self-identity, how we view ourselves, we will live out true to that identity. So if you think you're worthless, that you think that there's no future for you, there's no place for you, you will be involved potentially in destructive habits and addictions. But if you believe that you're somebody, if you have purpose in your life, that you have an identity that's important, then you will live according to that identity. Whether you're the prince, descendants from Queen Elizabeth, or whether your father is Bill Gates, or whether, as in my case, my father was worked for the Jefferson County Road Department. And so we develop very early on a self-identity. So many times the most important listener to our own conversations is ourselves. As we talk, we begin to explain to others who we think we are. Now, when we come to Christ, the Bible exhorts us to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And the way that works is that we're to be thinking differently about who we are. And when we understand who we are in Christ, then we will live according to that new identity. So it says we're to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And so the Bible exhorts us to know who we are in Christ, and it's amazing, it's startling, it's exciting. And for example, the Bible declares us to be priests. What does a priest do? He has immediate and direct access to God, not only for himself, but on behalf of others. And so here's what I would ask you to do. First of all, to think about the church as something we are and not something we go to, join, or attend. So the church is part of our identity, and it says that we're members one of another. And this is a mystery that I haven't gotten to the bottom of, how this relationship with fellow believers is to be worked out and to be carried out. But it changes the way you think about other believers. Sometimes believers that you're not totally in sync with, so to speak. And so I would encourage you to think about who you are. Now, when I taught this, when I started pastoring, I spent the first 2 years on this subject, on and off, back and forth, who we are in Christ. And I noticed over that 2-year period, people stopped sinning. There was less sinning in the lives of people. And how do I know that? You know, it's like a parent. You see your kids, you know what they're up to. You know what they're doing. It comes through. And my general perception, my general memory of those times is that people stopped sinning. They were more loving toward one another. And so as they began to understand who they are in Christ, their lives were transformed and they stopped sinning. I always hear these stories of pastors who commit adultery. It's usually some terrible sexual sin concerning with prostitutes, things that you couldn't even imagine doing. Somebody, especially who is a pastor, and immediately I realized they did not know who they are in Christ. And so this is something that is a deficit even in the most so-called mature Christian and even to the beginning Christian. The deficit is not knowing who you are in Christ. And so I would ask you to go to Google or your internet browser, and just put in "Who am I in Christ" in the search box. Who am I in Christ? And you'll get some really great inputs. Bible, I think it's Bible Hub and some others, and one of them lists an identity in Christ and then a scriptural reference, and it has 20 or 30 of these things. Boy, you could go down and spend the rest of your life studying who you are in Christ, and you wouldn't be far from where God exactly wants you. So if you want to stop sinning, here it is. If you want to stop sinning, find out who you are in Christ and change who you think you are, and you will stop sinning. It's that important, and I could say maybe that simple. Hey, thank you for joining me. God bless you. Look up who you are in the Bible, study it, and your life will be transformed.